what's better than just opening this podcast with an individual that has tremendous experience in a marketing industry? And obviously, you'll talk about that a little bit more, better than me here. But I would like to dive in right into the questions because there's a lot to cover and not enough time, as I said, for today. But you started at a very interesting period of time and interesting field before. So in the 80s, you started selling computers, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how did you turn out to sell computers without even owning one yourself before?
I answered a help wanted ad that said no experience necessary, and I qualified. So that was actually 79. I was selling Apple IIe's out of a retail store and explaining to people, this is the computer, this is the keyboard, this is the monitor, this is a 5¼ inch floppy disk drive with the operating system, and this one has the program, and this one has the data. And from there, I sold business computers to companies that had never owned one before. And from there, I sold software development tools to enterprise and government for Fortran and COBOL. Curiously, it was instrumenters. It was code that you put into your source code and compile it, so it would measure how well your code was executing. So I was into analytics early on. And then the next software package I was on the sales team for was distributed object-oriented programming. So what we know now as the internet was very nascent back then. And it was just networks between companies, but you could have software divided across the network, object-oriented, talking to each other. So when I saw Mosaic and the World Wide Web in 93, I went, oh, this makes perfect sense. It changes everything. So I've been writing books and public speaking and consulting ever since.
I mean, talking about catching a wave right there, right? So, obviously fortunate timing, born at the right time, at the right place, things are just happening, as you see it, at real time, right? So that was a very interesting time. As I'm looking right now on Google, I was checking before this interview, I was like, what was happening in 1980s, and I'm seeing Commodore introduces VIC-20. Again, you talked about what products have been selling, and Seagate just came up with the 5 megabyte hard drive disk. I mean, that was a very interesting time when things were just...
Which was in a gigantic box. I mean, that was a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Things are just starting. So you obviously, marketing, analytics, and, I like to also dive into your event. Obviously, very excited to see you at, Serious Marketing event this year as well. Right before that, you're also putting together your event, which was Marketing Analytics Summit. So how did you came about? Obviously, you saw the trends, the data, you saw that data analytics and kind of in marketing important, right? How did you came about with this idea to put this event together?
Out of necessity. So when I first wanted to learn about what was going on the internet, I went to a conference called Internet World. That was in 93, and there were about 200 people there, and maybe 15 vendors in the exhibit hall. And I asked the conference chair, where are the presentations on doing marketing on the internet? And she said, well, what? I said, well, I want to learn about this and this and this and this and this. She said, well, can you give that presentation? Well, yes, I could. And then I went to the exhibit hall, and the first stand I stopped at was John Wiley & Sons publisher. And I said, where are the books about doing online marketing? I said, well, what would be in such a book? Well, it would have talk about this, 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 and this. Well, could you write that book? Sure, I could. And so I started, and for 8 or 9 years, I was on the Internet World speaking circuit around the world and got clients that way. I would express my dismay at how ugly their websites were and how dysfunctional they were. And people would come up and say, can you come and tell my boss what you just said? It's like, sure, here's my invoice. And then Meckler Media sold Internet World to Penton, and Penton went bankrupt for a lot of other reasons. And suddenly I didn't have a platform anymore. So I'll put on my own conference. But I named my company Target Marketing. The more narrow you focus your target audience, the easier it is for them to understand that you are something that they need. So it's like,
Mm,
well, marketing, online marketing, everybody's doing online marketing now.
yep.
What's interesting? And the choices were search, which just didn't feel like it had legs, silly me. And analytics. Oh, it's not just my opinion that your website sucks. We can measure this stuff.
Mm,
So let's do a conference on that. That was 2002, and 50 people showed up.
wow.
30 of them were vendors, 10 of them were consultants, and 10 of them were actual people doing the actual work. But it made for instant community, and
Mm,
it's grown since then.
wow. 2002. Wow. Again, talking about perfect timing, you saw a need again. There wasn't no events. Is it before just to okay, where I'm gonna go, what I'm gonna do. Obviously, perfect timing. You had to execute it. 50 people. I'm sure
I got
that
to
was a
stop you. I'm sorry, because this perfect timing thing is excellent in retrospect. But
yes,
at the time, I'm just making a bet.
yes.
So
Oh yeah.
I bet in 1994, I bet that somebody might want to read a book called World Wide Web Marketing.
Now, when
And
you
it,
look back, it was like, oh, that was a perfect timing.
hey, smart
Yeah.
me. I mean,
Yeah.
I've made a couple of smart decisions in my
Yes.
life, and I got lucky.
Yes.
So, the books, online marketing, advertising, customer service, email marketing, web metrics came out in 2002, along with the conference. And then sort of nothing for a few years because the conference was all consuming.
Yeah.
And then, oh, here's social media. So I have to do a book on social media metrics. And then nothing really changed much. And then suddenly, oh, there's this machine learning thing, artificial intelligence. Ooh, I need to know about that.
Mm.
So, latest book, Artificial Intelligence in Marketing,
Yep.
2017. So that's all about machine learning. What we're now calling traditional I wrote about in 2017. Now I'm working on a book about generative AI because yes, it's as big a deal as the internet, I think.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about this, and I'm sure in your conference in marketing at Orlando Summit, there's a lot of people going to be talking about because especially when it comes to data, AI is kind of goes hand in hand, right? So again, talking about your latest book, Artificial Intelligence for Marketing: Practical Applications, which people can find that on Amazon, right, or on your website
Oh, yeah.
on Amazon.
And it is still a good primer. It's a good starting point, but don't expect to find Chat GPT in there.
Yeah. So what would you say, talking about like practical applications in terms of AI in marketing, that people can find from that book? Maybe you can give some insights into what they're going to be learning about.
So machine learning is broken up into three areas. There is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. So
Yeah.
supervised learning is here's all the data about my customers. This is everything I know. And I think a good customer is somebody who buys frequently and buys high margin products and doesn't weigh down my customer service too much. That's a great customer. Tell me who my best customers are. Well, that's just a classic database find. Now predict of my
Mm.
my prospects who looks like my best customers, and I should offer them something special to get them on board because they'll be high lifetime value people. That's supervised. I know the answer. I want you to find more like that. Unsupervised is here's everything I know about my customers and my marketplace. Tell me something I didn't know. Show me a cluster. Show me an anomaly. Show me an opportunity. Show me a correlation that I hadn't thought of before. Tell me something I didn't know. Reinforcement learning is where I take action. Here's my email marketing list of addresses. Here are some subject lines that we like and some pictures that we like. Go ahead and mix up the subject lines and the pictures to find the ones that get the most opens and the most click-throughs and the most conversions. And it will go send out a few thousand emails, see what the response is, and go, oh, this one got a better response, so I'm going to do more subject lines like that. This one got more conversions, I'm going to do more pictures like that. And it learns over time. It is reinforced to do the right thing.
Mm.
So those are very practical ways to use this fundamental traditional AI.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, especially talking. I mean, we just started year 24. A lot of people are really excited about what's happening in the marketing industry, analytics, data, AI. So how do you teach? Because you're also part of, other initiatives. For example, not to mention data-driven leaders studio, right? So you also work with businesses, interact with a lot of businesses. So how do you teach or tell people, guide them to approach these technical concepts, especially when individuals, they're non-technical people, including myself, right? And what feedback do you get from them? Like, what will be a good path for people to follow? I see a lot of people on LinkedIn commenting, like, "Yeah, I would love to learn about this." They're a medical company, they're academics, whatever they are, right? How do you teach them? What's a good start for them? Is there a framework or something that people can follow in terms of learning about this complex topic of AI?
There's a million places to go learn things on the internet. That this is one of the drawbacks. So I've done some LinkedIn learning courses, so that's available and findable.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly written a lot of books. I do a lot of public speaking, and then privately I do workshops. So I'll come into a company and say, where are you now? Where would you like to be? How much do you know at the moment? So, I mean, we go back to 1993, 94. I would have to explain packet switching. Let me explain how the internet works and how it's different from making a phone call so that you can understand what a website actually is technically. I'm not going to teach you how to do coding. We're not going to get, you're going to go hire some technical folks, but the marketing department needs to understand what a server is and what packet switching is so that you can understand the rest of what I'm going to tell you. Then comes machine learning. You need to understand what the difference is between the different kinds of models that can be built and the ways that they can be put to use so that you can understand the application. Now we get to generative AI. And I'm going to start with, here's what a large language model is. Here's how it works. Here's how it was designed. Here's what it does not do. Here's what it's good for. This is what it's bad for. So that now you can understand how to get the most out of it. The most popular workshop I'm doing these days is how do you bring this technology into an organization? So what are the proper steps? Because it's so new, nobody really knows what we're doing. Everybody's trying stuff, and it's a bit of a muddle. So step one, survey. What do people know? Everybody in the company is using ChatGPT for something, whether they're permitted to or not. Then we've got to find out what senior executives know and what they understand. Then we need to put together an AI council to help build policies and guidelines and training. And then and only then can we start to figure out how to integrate generative AI into processes
Mm.
and products and services. And then finally, you will probably not be surprised that I would be interested in how do you measure whether any of this is working for you? So how do you measure the business value of generative AI inside your company? So that the education is, it's a keynote. Let me just give you the broad brushstroke, what I'm going to be presenting at your event. Then there's workshops. Let's spend a day going through it in detail. And every individual in the company will have a different use case because this thing is so applicable across the board. It's like, hey, we have spreadsheets now. Oh, really? What can I use it for? Anything you want. Well, that doesn't help me. It's like, well, tell me about your job. Now we can talk about how you can use a spreadsheet. This is the same thing with an extremely different technology, something that we've never seen before. It is generative, and that is not something we're accustomed to. We expect computers to be specific. We expect it to be input and output. And generative AI is not that. It's creative.
Mm. Interesting. I mean, talking about AI, I mean, for me, it's a very interesting topic because, it's been around like this topic for people. Again, if you're watching or listening, for a lot of us, there's like, oh, it's brand new. It just came up a couple of years ago. At least it feels that way. But, as I'm currently looking, at the timeline of AI, for example, I'm just pulling some of the data that you can find there online. For example, Arthur Samuel from IBM, he wrote first game playing program for checkers, and that was 1952, right? That was already, and this is just some fun kind of thing that they were just playing around, right? So in 1950s, so AI has been here for quite some time. Obviously, not to the point that we're seeing today with the Chat GPT and all these different, softwares and tools that are available at our fingertips. But what do you think, Jim, it will cost? Because obviously, what I'm trying to say, that AI, the word itself, it has been around for a while, as far as it seems, right? Maybe not in the mainstream media as it is today. What do you think this will cost to the businesses? Is speaking about workshops and speaking the individuals that are not looking or saying, oh, it doesn't matter, we're just going to do business as usual, right? So what is this is going to cost to the businesses looking further ahead in the future if they're not going to start learning about the intricacies of AI?
It will cost them the whole business.
Oh, wow.
So let's look at technology broadly. Internal combustion engine, telephone and television, computing, internet, smartphone. These things fundamentally change business. This is a giant business disruption engine. Generative AI is as big as those. It's
Mm,
as important as electricity, which changed everything. And now here we are, and just on the verge. I mean, so let's go back to 1993. We had internet and the World Wide Web. We had no idea that there would be e-commerce. We couldn't see it coming. We had no visibility that social media was going to be a thing. We just didn't know. We imagined that we could have long distance video conversations like we're having right now, but the technology just wasn't there. To really blow your mind, I'll go back to, I believe it was 1968. Douglas Engelbart did something referred to as the mother of all demos, and it is worth looking at it on YouTube. He invented the mouse. He demonstrated video conferencing. He saw the future. And we are living in the future that he saw. But the future that we're going to be living in is something we've only experienced in science fiction movies, and they are movies. They are not reality. So creating this future today is overwhelmingly exciting.
yeah. Well, but at least I feel the same. I feel exactly. I feel really excited. When this new year started, even before the last year, once I kind of came back in the marketing space, I was like, wow, there's a lot of things happening and real exciting things are happening. A lot of things are taking off. But obviously, as there's so much noise, and there's probably no other place like in a marketing community that you can get bombarded with all these different offers, news. This thing came up, another thing will be coming up. Buy this, do this, buy this, get this software, whatever. What do you think in terms of that data analytics and driving their business? If we're talking about marketing people inside of those companies that should be utilizing some of those tools, if it's AI or something else, what do you think the most, maybe talking about the metrics, data metrics that marketers are missing on, right? They're not paying attention to that really can drive business to the next level.
Well, it's something that we've never measured before, and that is creativity and strategic thinking and
Mm,
critical thinking. And you've got the usual things that companies measure: raise revenue, lower cost, increase customer satisfaction, increase employee satisfaction, increase capabilities, lower risk. That's what businesses worry about. But now we have a tool that can help you be creative. We have a tool that can help you brainstorm. We have a tool that can help you do scenario planning. Just as the spreadsheet helped us do calculations, this thing is going to help us be creative.
mm,
So measuring the number of ideas that are created, the number of good ideas, based on what metric? the number of ideas that are brought to market, the number of people who are encouraged and brought forward, the number of, well, okay, sales, money raised and money saved based on this kind of creativity. This is orthogonal to what we're accustomed to. Non-deterministic computing is a different animal, and measuring it will require different yardstick.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just, I'm just looking at the time, and I'm looking at all the other questions that I have here, because there's so much to cover. And obviously I would like to, because, as I mentioned to you, I'm like a sponge myself, right? And there's so much, there's so little time here to cover and go deep into the topics that I would like to
If
go.
you'd like to keep going, we could break this into part 1 and part 2, and you could air part 2 later.
Sounds like a plan. So maybe just a couple of questions, because obviously there's some good stuff here as well. In terms of, you're talking about measuring creativity. So how do you balance that, right? So for example, when it comes to creativity and making data-driven decisions, right? Because at the same time, you have to look at the data and kind of put that together with your creativity, right? So what would you say, like, in terms of striking that balance for the marketers? Are there data plus your creativity, how that can come together?
They peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter and chocolate, they belong together. So the creativity is going to help me figuring out who to reach out to, what messaging to use, frequency, what media should I use. That's all about creativity. What features should I add to my product? What should I offer? What new territory should I enter into? All the strategic thinking. And then the data tells me whether or not that idea is paying off. And that's classic. And I need to come up with a hypothesis and then test it. So creativity and data, and they hand in glove. They all go together.
What would you say for the people, including myself, because obviously I'm one of those ADHD type of people too, where, keeping attention, especially, again, coming back to what I mentioned before, when you're bombarded, this is better, this is newer, this will change everything, data analytics, being more creative, use this, do this. Like, how do you keep your focus, and how do you make sure that you're tweaking the right things rather than just chasing the next software, the next tool that's going to be providing better results for your business?
Well, North Star metric is helpful. So if I am choosing between two activities, I'm going to make this phone call, answer this email, read this article, write that blog post. Which one is going to help me achieve the North Star metric the soonest, the best? And then it's just discipline, time management. At the beginning of last year, I was overwhelmed with research. I could not get anything done because I absolutely needed to understand generative AI to my own satisfaction, which means I can explain it to a business person. I'm not going to go into a room of data scientists and teach them anything they don't know, but I am going to tell the business people in the marketing department things that they don't know. But I have to understand this. So it took me about 2 months of nothing but research. And that was very rewarding intellectually, but not financially. So now I have to shift gears and be very careful to limit my amount of research time per day so that I can get things done and ship things out the door.
Okay, I'm just thinking, yeah, okay. So now talking about looking ahead, because obviously there's too much to cover. I would love to come back and talk about, more in depth, maybe, stuff, next time on the next episode as well. But just looking ahead right now, because obviously you have a super busy schedule. Last time I remember talking with you via email, you just said, like, wow, just overwhelmed with stuff, right, on a day-to-day basis. So what, in terms of your own personal goals, as you're putting your own event, you're part of different initiatives, in terms of, marketing and analytics space, how do you plan to contribute to the industry? What else do you think is out there for you to contribute in terms of that ongoing development?
Well, first of all, I need to write another book. So that's when I look at
Already got the
giant
title?
projects. No, no, it is. I mean, generative AI practical applications for marketing. I don't know. Usually the publisher chooses the title anyway, but that's what the book will be about. How do I bring this into the company? What are not the technology, not prompt engineering, because everybody's talking about that, and that's going to change dramatically. In fact, here's my best tip about prompt engineering. ChatGPT has something called custom instructions. My custom instruction to ChatGPT is whenever I give it a prompt, it is to ask me 3 questions about that prompt in order to give me a better answer. And then when I answer those questions, it will ask me 3 more questions.
Mm,
And it will continue doing this until I use the word done, and then it will execute.
yeah,
So I have asked it to help me ask it questions.
yeah.
That's the kind of strategic thinking that makes a difference.
Chaining.
So,
Yeah.
so what can what's my big projects? Writing the book, making sure that I get all of my presentations done in time for airtime,
Yeah.
and fulfilling the needs of my clients who are asking me to come in and do workshops, survey their company, do the workshop, and give them a roadmap for bringing this capability into their company.
That's awesome. Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a clear plan. Look, which I'm sure we're going to see more exciting things from your side as well. Obviously, for people to follow you and your company, to register for the website, all those good links are going to be included. Whatever, if you're listening or watching this episode. But again, I look forward also to the SME 24 June 18th, which again, you're going to be diving deep into the subject. I kind of got a glimpse of the presentation that you're going to be presenting at the event, and you were the first one. Actually, you're presenting on a day one, the first presentation that day. So I'm looking forward to that as well. As we talked last time, it's all about being a sponge, learning, and especially when it comes to data analytics, marketing. I highly encourage individuals. If you're watching this, if you're a business owner, if you love marketing, don't love marketing, don't like analytics, you should start looking into these things, because as yourself just said, that this is going to be a live or die situation for most of the businesses, right? So I think people and companies should start paying more attention. So if you're watching, you have a company, go follow, register for the event, and make sure to just to grow and improve and do better for your clients, for yourself, and for the society too. But I really appreciate the time. Obviously, hopefully we can come back with a part 2, provide more, maybe in depth, maybe cover some specific topics, of your choice, or I can propose some, and we can, dig in deeper, obviously, and talk about generative AI or just AI in general. But again, pleasure to have you on, Jim. I greatly appreciate your time, and I'll guess we'll catch up at some point near in the future.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Great questions. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.